Anzixi was crossed into the 1980s by an accident. He wore blue pants, fried dough twists braids and a modest village girl. But this little village girl's fate is not very good. Her father and mother are dead, and there are people blocking her from taking the college entrance exam. This is not bad. Anzixi sharpens its swords vigorously, with spatial abilities in hand. Sister wants to play around 85 and start a new peak in life. Just a literary and artistic senior said, "Sister, I like you. Be my girlfriend." The cold and fierce man said, "I want to be with you." The soft and cute milk dog said, "Sister, my stomach is not good and I want to eat something softer." With a big wave of his hand, Anzixi felt rough, and my mother only wanted to pursue a career. Xiao Jinyang smiled slightly and said, "My name is career." Keywords of the novel. Journey through 85. The school flower with special abilities cannot afford to cause pop-ups. Journey through 85. The school flower with special abilities cannot afford to cause pop-ups. Journey through 85. The school flower with special abilities cannot afford to cause pop-ups. Journey through 85. The school flower with special abilities cannot afford to cause the latest chapter reading. Did you wear chapter 1? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Did you wear chapter 1? Anzixi Creek was awakened by freezing. Her eyes were blindfolded, her hands and feet were bound, and she didn't know what was stuck in her mouth. The blockage made her throat particularly uncomfortable and she was about to lose her breath. She moved for a moment, but her back started to ache hotly, indicating that she was injured. She didn't die, it seems she fell into the hands of some grandson. They don't want to give her a good time and are trying to torture her in a different way. There are definitely no more than 10 people in this world who dare to treat her like this. But there are at least a few hundred people who want to deal with her like this. I just don't know which force actually started this game, but it was so big that even the plane exploded. More than 100 lives. I don't know which organization will be responsible for this incident. Anzixi carefully moved his body and groped on the ground, quickly catching a flat stone. The opportunity has come. Anzixi held the stone in her hand and kept cutting the rope on her wrist. Although she keenly felt a slight discomfort, her hand movements did not stop. When the plane crashed, she could clearly hear the deafening explosion and feel the boundless heat wave. Even if she hadn't been killed by the explosion at the time, she wouldn't have survived falling from such a high place. She should have died. But she is still alive and well now. The injury on her back is very painful, her action of cutting the rope is agile and real, everything seems to be real. Finally, the hemp rope was cut open. Anzixi quickly shook his arm, shook off the rope, and then took out the torn cloth stuffed in his mouth, while also pulling off the cloth strip from his eyes. Lying down, what is this place? The thatched roof has a big hole on it, with faint starlight visible. Take a closer look at the room where you are located. It should be a dilapidated house that has been abandoned for a long time, with a low roof, bumpy mud, and a musty smell in the air. There is dust everywhere. How long has it been since no one lived here? Just when Anzixi saw the slogans pasted on the wall, he was completely stunned. One is not afraid of death, and the other is not afraid of hardship. Learn from Dacheng in industry and Dazai in agriculture. What kind of thing is it? Why did she see slogans that only appear in movies and TV dramas? Is it a somewhat ridiculous and absurd idea flashed through her mind? Time travel and other things are just fabricated by literati, they are not credible. Believe in science. Anzixi took a deep breath and looked down at her clothes. It didn't matter, her pupils tightened for a moment, and she froze again. A cheesecloth cover, pants that are so fat that they have a bit of a crotch, and patches on the knees. A blue waistband at the waist, made of cloth strips, with 2 smooth braids hanging over the shoulders, tied with 2 slightly worn red headbands, and a pair of black cloth shoes with a 1,000-layered sole under the feet. Proper village-made attire. Looking at her hands again, they were a bit rough, with several calluses in their palms, which looked a bit like her previous hands. Playing with guns and practicing martial arts will inevitably create calluses over time. But the calluses on these hands were different from those on hers. They were clearly calluses ground with a hoe and an iron pickaxe. The cold wind whizzed down the hole into the house, and Anzixi's whole body became clearer. So, she's really dead, just her soul has traveled through. MMP, this is causing a stir. Her huge funds in the bank, luxury villas in H country, and limited edition luxury cars in the underground garage, I don't know which bastard to cheap. Her lifelong hard work. I looked like I was about to retire, but I ended up floating in the water. Just as Anzixi was about to greet the thief, she suddenly heard the footsteps of 3 people coming from outside the door. Judging from the intensity of the footsteps, there should be 2 men and 1 woman coming. The whole room was just so big, and there was no place to hide. Anzixi quickly ran to the door, leaned against the wall, and vigilantly watched the situation outside. The 3 of them got closer and closer, and Anzixi even heard their breathing. "Zhuangshi, do you remember what Auntie said?" A silly voice sounded, remember. It didn't sound very smart. "Okay, then tell your aunt what to do after entering the house. Take off her K and lie down and hold her down. Then, kiss her." Anzixi almost couldn't resist jumping out to greet his whole family. "I want to know who that fool is talking about." Another male voice rang out, "This is how stupid people have stupid blessings. We're not stupid to be strong, are we?" "You're right, as long as you do everything your aunt teaches you well, she'll let her be your daughter. Law. The sound of sniffling sounded, followed by silly laughter. Daughter. Law, I want a strong wife. Hurry up and open the door." "Okay." The man took out the key, opened the lock, and the 3 of them pushed the door into the room, then turned around and inserted the door. The night was heavy, with only faint starlight scattered through the broken hole on the roof. The sight was not good, and the 3 of them couldn't see where Anzixi Creek was. They thought she was still unconscious, so they groped for an oil lamp. "Where did the match go?" "I remember it was right here." Chi Dafu was bending down to look for the match when Ling Buting was kicked in the back and lost his center of gravity. He fell forward, fell off a dog and let out a scream, but didn't get up for a long time. Head of the household. Ding Kaifeng became anxious and found Chi Dafu with a hint of starlight, trying to help him up. "How could you be so careless?" She thought Chi Dafu fell by himself. "Someone kicked me." "Kick you?" Ding Kaifeng said to herself that she only drank 2 liang of cat urine tonight, so why did she get confused? He's in the dark, where would anyone kick him? As soon as she was about to speak, Ding Kaifeng was slammed twice by someone. She exclaimed in surprise, her mouth slightly unclear, "Who hit me? It really hurts, my face is numb and swollen, and my teeth seem to be loose. Isn't there a ghost?" The couple was startled and both felt a bit guilty. Suddenly, a glimmer of light flashed through the darkness, and as it flickered, a face appeared. The 3 of them were all startled, and Ding Zhuangshi, who was only 3 years old with intelligence, was scared to pee on the spot. "Ghost, I'm going home." The 200-pound chubby man, timid as a mouse, fainted and fell to the ground with a muffled sound. The couple didn't care about him either, trembling and hugging each other, giving each other courage. Chi Dafu boldly took a closer look and realized that it was not a ghost. It was clearly the girl Zhao Shila. "It's strange, how did she wake up? Is it because the dosage is not enough? That's not right. I used to tie this girl tightly and wait for the raw rice to cook and mature. How could she now?" Chi Dafu was at a loss for a moment, but his mother. Law Ding Kaifeng didn't have that much plan in her heart. She took 2 steps and rushed to Anzixi's face, saying, "Did you, a wild girl, hit me? It's the other way around, let's see if I'll teach you a lesson." After speaking, she raised her hand and slapped Anzixi's face fiercely. New books require collection and support. Everyone, spray gently. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Ghost King. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Ghost King. What kind of person is Anzixi? She has a nickname called Ghost King. Whenever it is a task taken over by her Ghost King, internationally renowned warlords have to retreat one by one, afraid of being remembered by her. When she first debuted, because her reputation was not well known, she was worried about a certain action team in *** country. Anzixi's team members died and were injured one by one, which made her so angry that she went alone to find the opponent's lair and picked them up one by one. Anzixi not only bloodily washed this action team, but also taught her predecessors a lesson, letting them know that there is such a difficult woman in China that they cannot afford to provoke. Since then, she has taken on several tricky cases, narrowly escaped danger several times, and finally stood firm in this circle, spreading the reputation of the Ghost King. Even if the Ghost King has traveled through time, he is still the Ghost King. How could a rural woman defeat him? Anzixi grabbed Ding Caifeng's wrist and then pulled out 2 more mouths with his backhand, causing Ding Caifeng to be stunned. He covered his face for a while but couldn't react. There's a bit of a cult in Anzixi today. A person who used to be unable to kick a fart with 3 legs, how did it break out today? Her face hurts so much, and her teeth seem to be shaking. As the head of the household, just watch her slap me, you. Ding Caifeng pressed her tongue against her back teeth and found that they were really shaking, almost falling off. Chi Dafu was afraid of being kicked and didn't dare to step forward rashly. His lower back still hurts faintly even now. Girl, what's wrong with you? You don't know how to hit xie, do you? 10 years later, he dared not say these words and Zixi looked coldly at the two of them, then glanced at the fat man on the ground and snorted before speaking up, you two have such a dark heart. How dare you do such a thing? Ding Caifeng widened a pair of dead fish eyes and swallowed the waterway, saying, You already know. Can't you? Chi Dafu is actually a man with a lot of knowledge and mind. He gave Ding Caifeng a hard push and said, Don't talk nonsense. He smiled and looked at Anzixi, Girl, misunderstand. You see, this is not what you think. Chi Dafu wants to stabilize Anzi Creek first. A little girl's film, and it's on his territory that he can still find flowers. Is that right? What's wrong with that chubby guy on the ground? You all have a clear idea in your hearts. You dare to give me medicine and don't want to live anymore. Do you all know about the medication? Ding Caifeng rolled her eyes and defended herself, Girl, we can't rely on this matter. It's your mother who died, and we see that you are pitiful. We want to introduce you to a marriage so that you can have something to rely on. Look at my strong physique, my family has money, and you won't suffer any losses after marrying. Fart. Even a fool can be a reliance. Anzixi cursed loudly, Don't think I don't know what you're up to. If you want to trap me, there's no way. As soon as the words fell, the couple both changed their faces. If this girl runs away, how will they explain it to that person? Shouldn't the money I received also go to waste? We must not let Anzixi leave Shaoqian village. Chi Dafu's evil intentions grew on the edge of his courage, and he suddenly had the idea of killing and silencing. Anyway, this girl doesn't have any relatives anymore. The only person who has blood with her is eager for her to disappear from this world. Since that's the case, why not fulfill his wealth and prosperity? It can also be considered as accumulating virtue and doing good deeds. I hope she will be entrusted to a good family in her next life, and not be burdened with a ruthless father. Chi Dafu took a step forward and said, Girl, listen to me. He wanted to take Anzixi by surprise, control her first, and then kill her. Unconsciously, he buried her and said she had gone back to the city to find her father. The villagers wouldn't have thought much about it. Can Chi Dafu's little tricks still hide from Anzixi? In her previous life, she rarely saw good people, but she almost had a reinforcement team when she saw bad people. How could the calculation in Chidafu's eyes possibly escape her eyes? Anzixi smiled lightly and didn't care, you say it. Chidafu didn't know why, but suddenly trembled, and the oil lamp suddenly burst into a flame, causing him to shiver and burst into a cold sweat. Anzixi smiled again and said, "You coward." These two words completely angered Chidafu. He saw a strong sense of disdain in Anzixi's eyes, and suddenly felt endless anger in his heart. He took 2 steps forward, reached out to Anzixi's neck with both hands, trying to strangle her. Anzixi suddenly lifted his foot and kicked towards Chidafu's chest. This kick hit Chidafu's chest, and he was kicked more than 2 meters away, hitting the fat man hard. He didn't come up in one breath and passed out. Ah! The head of the family. Ding Kaifeng was stunned by the sudden change. She opened her eyes wide and looked at Anzixi in great fear. Her body couldn't help but tremble. "You, don't come over." Anzixi's face remained expressionless, but his eyes showed a hint of ferocity. "I'll ask, you answer. If you dare to lie, I'll take your life." I said, don't kill me. Did you calculate on me under Zhao Guofu's command?" Ding Kaifeng nodded like pounding garlic and said, "Your father gave us some money to stabilize you. It's best to marry you far away and not let you take the college entrance exam. He's afraid you'll go to the city and go find him." "We have no choice," Ding Kaifeng said with a mournful expression. "How much money did he give?" 500 yuan. 500. These days, 500 is already quite a lot. No wonder these two are working so hard, let alone selling her and earning a profit. This deal doesn't seem to be a loss no matter what. If it weren't for her sudden resistance and disruption of the couple's plans, it's unlikely that Chidafu would have had any murderous intentions towards her. "Do you have his address? Do you know where he lives now?" Ding Kaifeng shook her head and said, "I don't know, how could he let us know? Isn't he afraid that you won't take the money and don't do anything? It's easy for him to find us, but we can't find him." Ding Kaifeng cried as she kowtowed to Anzixi, "Girl, please spare us. We dare not do this shameful thing again." Anzixi sighed lightly, "It's too late. I spared you, who spared her? The original owner was so innocent, but they were killed by these two beasts." She raised her hand and fiercely struck Ding Kaifeng's neck, causing her eyes to roll and she fainted. The room was quiet, as if nothing had happened. Anzixi wrapped his clothes tightly around his body and left the dilapidated house with a deep and shallow foot, walking down the mountain according to the original owner's memory. It's not that she didn't report it, it's not yet time. She can't let the deaths of these 3 people be related to her, let them live for a few more days for now. Second update. Seeing several familiar friends, thank you for your company and support. I don't want to disappoint you, I will code your words well. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. The space following. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. The space following. Anzixi returned to the original owner's residence according to his memory in his mind. A dilapidated adobe house, a small fence yard, but unfortunately the true owner never returns. Anzixi pushed the door into the house and fumbled for the light rope. In her eyes, the antique-like electric bulb lit up. The brightness of the light bulb was not high, and the light inside the house was very dim, but it was enough for her to look at the original owner's home. The house is very old, with only 3 rooms, and the furniture inside is pitifully scarce. On the tattered door curtain, there are several patches, and the Kong mat is also very old, with some areas even repaired. There is a photo frame on the old box, which contains only 3 photos, one of which is a solo photo of the original owner's mother and Mei Yun, the other photo is a group photo of the mother and daughter. At that time, the original owner was still young, about 6 or 7 years old. There is also a single-person photo of the original owner, depending on their age, they should have already entered high school. In the photo, An Meiyun is peaceful and beautiful, young and beautiful, and she is not the same person as the mother who is always sad and tearful in the original owner's memory. The original owner's name was Zhao Shila, the daughter of Zhao Guofu and An Meiyun. Originally, the family of three lived well in Shaoqian village. However, one day when the original owner was 7 years old, Zhao Guofu suddenly received a letter and packed his luggage, leaving Shaoqian village without returning. Zhao Guofu is a young man who went to the countryside. Originally, An Meiyun thought that if the two of them got married and had children, he would stay in Shaoqian village for a lifetime. However, who could have imagined that he would suddenly return to the city, and since then, there has been no news of him. An Meiyun has also searched for people. She used the files from Zhao Guofu's visit to Shaoqian village to find them, but Zhao Guofu seemed to have evaporated from the human world, with no news at all. An Meiyun lives in a dream of self-deception, looking forward to the day when the family of three can reunite. Unfortunately, she never managed to bring Zhao Guofu back until her death. An Meiyun died of overwork at the age of 40, yet she was as old as 60. A rural woman whose husband ran away from home has no education or skills. How difficult it is to raise her child. The gossip of the rural people is enough for her to drink a pot. If it weren't for An Meiyun's strong desire to raise her daughter, she might have been unable to bear the rumors in the village and would have been killed by a head-on collision. Anzixi looked at An Meiyun's photo and remained speechless for a long time. Poor motherless child. If An Meiyun were still alive, the original owner would not have been bullied to death. But what's the use of saying these things now? Everyone is dead, I've already passed through myself. Anzixi sighed. She never wanted to believe that she had traveled through time, but the fact told her that everything was true. She was not dreaming or sleepwalking, but truly returning to the past era and becoming someone else through time. This is like a joke to her that's not funny at all. The injury on his back felt a faint pain, and Anzixi lowered his head and cursed, then pulled the light rope and turned off the light. The room was pitch black, so quiet that no sound could be heard. Anzixi tied the door tightly, closed his eyes, and immediately entered the space. Yes, you read it right. This is another power space article. According to common sense, women are subject to physiological limitations and are inferior to men in terms of strength and speed. Even with long-term effective and systematic training, women are still at a disadvantage when faced with similarly trained male opponents. The main advantages of women are flexibility and slightly better endurance, but obviously, these traits are not enough to make Anzixi a famous ghost king. She is not a super warrior who has undergone transformation in movies, she is just lucky and has become a darling of heaven, possessing a treasure that others are begging for. Her treasure is space. Anzixi does not know in what form space exists, but she knows that she is inseparable from space. Her brain and nerves seem to be connected to this mysterious space. She knows space like the back of her hand and knows how to use it to strengthen and protect herself. It is precisely because of the assistance of space that Anzixi has narrowly escaped death several times and has become a terrifying ghost king. To her surprise, the space did not abandon her. Although she had changed her body, the space was still there, which made her even more suspicious that space existed in her soul. The injury on her back was from a collision. Although there was no trauma or bone damage, it was very swollen. And the original owner's fatal injury is in the head. At that time, Qi Dafu and Ding Kaifeng drugged the original owner and wanted to take her to the mountain, but the dosage was not well controlled. Halfway through, the original owner woke up. After a struggle, the original owner rolled down the slope, injured his back, and hit the back of his head hard on a stone. At that time, the person just fainted and did not die. Qi Dafu and his wife saw that there were no wounds or blood on her body, so they carried her up the mountain as planned. But I didn't want the original owner to have intracranial hemorrhage, so I lost my life and bought her a discount. Space is a magical place, and every decoration is very thoughtful. When I first came in, Anzixi thought I had come to someone's small garden. There are rockeries and peculiar stones here, as well as blue brick and tile houses. It is daytime all year round, and the temperature always remains at around 234 degrees Celsius, neither hot nor cold, without mosquitoes, and the time is much slower than outside. Anzixi had taken a test and stayed in the space for most of the day. The outside time had only passed for a dozen or so minutes. Although she didn't understand the principle and structure, she loved it immensely. She uses space to learn and refine her physical fitness. She practices for a day before going out, and only half an hour has passed outside. To put it in Versailles, someone else's day is 24 hours, while her day at Anzixi can be many 24 hours, as long as she is willing. In addition, there is a spring in the space, hidden in the groove of the stone base of the Taihu Lake in the courtyard, which is the size of a plate of water, but it does not stain a trace of dust all the year round. Water doesn't know where it comes from, it never flows elsewhere, not much, always so much. If it weren't for the occasional ripples on Anzixi, I would have thought it was just a small puddle. This spring water may seem inconspicuous, but it has a miraculous effect of living in dead people, giving birth to white bones. Anzixi personally tried it at the risk of being poisoned to death. This spring water is not only non-toxic, but can also detoxify. Even people who have been seriously injured can quickly recover their health as long as they don't die and drink this spring water to nourish them. When she first discovered the wonderful use of this spring water, she almost went crazy with joy. For someone like her who wanders on the brink of danger all year round, probing back and forth on the line of death, this spring water is comparable to the elixir of the Supreme Lord. Because the spring water comes from the stone attached to the Taihu Lake, Anzixi named it Shirquan. Of course, this is her secret alone, a secret she will always keep. Anzixi picked up a small spoon next to the stone spring and drank a spoonful of spring water. A cool feeling quietly climbed up her back, relieving her pain quite a bit. As long as there is space to follow her, no matter where or when, she will be the invincible ghost king again. It's even less, isn't it, that our conditions don't allow it? Throughout the entire holiday, I lived a life of jumping around with my child and experiencing pain every day. The elderly person is in poor health and needs to be hospitalized and taken care of. It's really difficult to have a life of seniors and juniors. Fortunately, as the child starts school, the manuscripts will gradually accumulate. Hand-heart gesture, end of this chapter. Chapter 4. Eyelid jumping. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 5. A Great Fire. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. A great fire. When Anzixi appeared in front of Ding Kaifeng, she finally found the reason why her eyelids were twitching. Ding Kaifeng never imagined that in the middle of the night, Anzixi would be alone and boldly break into her own home. Didn't the head of the household go to tidy up this girl? How did you let this girl go? Ding Kaifeng looked at the eye-catching smile on Anzixi's face and finally realized something was wrong. Where are you, my boss? What did you do to him? He. Anzixi sneered repeatedly, I want to know, go down and find him. Go down and find him. These 4 words made Ding Kaifeng blush instantly. You killed him. She couldn't believe that the Anzixi in front of her was so insane and dared to kill someone. I'm fighting with you. Ding Kaifeng didn't know where the courage came from, but she really rushed towards Anzixi with open teeth and claws, looking like she was going to fight her all out. Will Anzixi be afraid of her? With a slap, Ding Kaifeng was knocked down directly on the Kong. Her strength was too strong, and Ding Kaifeng lay there for half a day without getting up. Half of her ears were buzzing, as if she had been knocked deaf. She now believes that this girl really dares to kill. Ding Kaifeng didn't care much and let out a loud howl, kill. How could Anzixi let her cry for help? He grabbed her neck and pinched Ding Kaifeng's throat, making her unable to utter a word, and a murderous intent appeared in his eyes. Ding Kaifeng trembled with fear from Anzixi's gaze, and a wet sensation came from her lower body. She was actually scared to pee. She couldn't help but think of Chi Dafu's words. Do you think she doesn't want to kill you? She's afraid of getting into trouble. Even if you kill us, you can't run away. Now is not the time for fish to die and the net to be broken. And Zixi still has something to ask. I'm not afraid to tell you the truth, Chi Dafu didn't die. Ding Caifeng's eyes suddenly lit up, but then she looked at Anzixi with a wary expression, not quite believing. I don't want to kill anyone, I just want to know the whereabouts of Zhao Guofu. I know he instructed you to do this. As long as you tell me where he is, I will naturally settle this matter with him. But if you would rather die than speak, I will have to kill you and search for clues about your family. I can't say for sure, but I can still find something. After speaking, she added some more strength to her hands. Ding Kaifeng immediately felt difficulty breathing, only exhaling and not inhaling, as if she was about to be choked to death the next second. Ding Kaifeng had never felt death so close before. She struggled with all her strength and squeezed out 2 words. I say. And Zixi finally let go of his hand. Ding Kaifeng regained her freedom, and air squeezed into her lungs, causing her to cough uncontrollably. She lay on the Kong, panting heavily and sweating profusely. Almost she was choked to death. Tell me, where is Zhao Guofu and how did you get in touch? Did he leave Shaoqian village and return to the city back then? Ding Kaifeng nodded listlessly and said, he abandoned you too and returned to his hometown. Later, he took over his father's shift and worked at the hydraulic parts factory. My mom went to find him, but he's not there at all. Zhao Guofu's hometown is Shuaizu County. He had a job transfer once, and later his whole family moved to Lingshi. No wonder Beauty and couldn't find him. I used to move to the city to live. Later on. Where did he start a family? Ding Caifeng's eyes flickered, and when she saw Anzixi's knife-like gaze, she immediately became honest. He got married and married a niece of a certain factory director. Apart from these, we don't know anything else. A heartless man, Chen Shimi. He wrote letters and telegrams to you before. Find them all for me. Ah. Ding Kaifeng quickly got up and went to the Kong cabinet to take out a biscuit box. She handed over the letters, telegrams, and other items inside the box to Anzixi. Anzixi didn't look either, just carried the things in his arms and asked, he repeatedly asked you to stop me from taking the college entrance exam. Are you afraid that I might go find him? Ding Kaifeng nodded honestly. Yeah, in his eyes, I'm afraid I'm just a procrastinator. How could he be willing to disturb his life with a procrastinator? Do you think so? Ding Kaifeng was so embarrassed, neither nodding or shaking her head. So, I've told you everything, can you let us go? Don't worry, I have one last question. I'm asking you, why are you two so determined to do things for him even if you kill him? Ding Kaifeng dared not look into Anzixi's eyes, but felt that this girl had changed. She was sharp and intelligent, completely different from Zhao Shila, who used to be unable to kick a few farts with just one kick. Yes, one is the original owner Zhao Shila who was killed by you, one is the ghost king Anzixi from another world, can it be a person? If you don't say it, I can also know. Besides, do you think this question is important to me? Xiao Ming was in the hands of someone else, and Ding Kaifeng could only accept her fate. My family works in a weaving factory in Changhai County, and this job was still found by your father. I haven't become a full-time employee yet. Oh, Anzixi smiled and said, so that's how it is. With the help of a benefactor, why haven't you ever mentioned it before? People are not selfish, heaven and earth will perish. Chi Dafu and Ding Kaifeng have 4 daughters, and it's no wonder Chi Changhai is the only son for his future. I want my son to stay in the county and eat public food. Anzixi casually glanced at the calendar sign hanging on the wall, 8 or 5 years. At this time, urban household registration is indeed more popular. Well, how dare we say it? The village thinks it's Shanghai's own skill, so we didn't say it. Ding Siphon's blush, Shanghai's 4 sisters don't know about it. And Zixi let out a thoughtful sound. Joyful, take a look. I've told you everything you want to know. You can let us go. Anzixi hooked his lips and smiled brilliantly, okay. The night was heavy, and the entire village fell silent. In a faint sense, there seemed to be a flickering fire somewhere in the village. In no time, thick smoke billowed and flames surged into the sky. Unfortunately, at this moment, there was a gust of wind again, and the fire rose up against the wind, burning fiercely, cruelly devouring the 3 adobe houses of the Qi family. When the neighbors discovered it, it was already too late and it was impossible to save the entire family. They had to control the fire as much as possible to avoid burning the neighboring neighbors. At dawn, the fire finally stopped and the whole family was finished. People found the bodies of Qi Dafu and Ding Kaifeng inside the house, 2 charred corpses, one at the door and one by the stove. They were about to escape and ascend to heaven, but in the end, they were burned to death at home. There is nothing left in the room, and the beams have been burned clean. Don't miss it when you pass by, leave comments and tickets. Don't let the comments section be so deserted. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Renaming. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Renaming. A big event has happened in Shaoqian village. Villager Qi Dafu and Ding Kaifeng slept and rested at home at night. Unexpectedly, a sudden fire broke out in the house, and the entire Qi family was completely burned down. The 2 were ultimately burned alive at home, only 1 step away from the escape route. Okay, how could there be a fire at home? Ding Dafu's children rushed back upon receiving the news and immediately reported to the police for filing a case. The town investigators rushed over and carefully surveyed the scene, but did not find anything wrong. Firstly, the aging of the Qijia circuit poses a safety hazard. The preliminary judgment of the cause of the fire is that it is caused by circuit aging. Secondly, they discovered a large number of cotton woven items in the Qi family. It is these cotton woven items that make the fire uncontrollable. Although these cotton fabrics were all burned, from the remaining fragments, it appears that they all came from the same place. The county weaving factory. Not to mention whether it was Qi Shanghai who stole the things from the factory, but to mention these things that caused the fire, they must be Qi's own things, so the probability of intentionally setting fire is even lower. Thirdly, they did not find any suspicious items at the scene. Generally speaking, if intentionally setting fire, criminals will always leave some evidence, such as cigarette butts and footprints. In this era, the work of popularizing law was not done well, and many people made irreparable mistakes on impulse. Many people who commit crimes have low education, and there are not many who can do without leaving evidence. Similarly, in this era, technology is also backward, without Tianyan or the internet. People search for suspects through visits and investigations. On the day of the accident, it was the second half of the night, and every household was sleeping soundly. No one saw any suspicious people. In addition, Qi Dafu's family did not have any grudges against anyone, so the incident was ultimately classified as an unexpected event. The 5 children of the Qi family can only accept this result and handle their affairs. The most tragic thing is Qi Shanghai. If his parents are gone, he won't say anything, and his family is also gone. And he can't explain the origin of those cotton fabrics at home clearly. After learning about this, the factory thought he had engaged in theft and directly fired him. Not to mention becoming a regular now, not even a temporary worker. Qi Shanghai had no choice but to take turns eating at the homes of his 4 sisters to make a living. At this time, There was no such creature as Fu Dmo, so older sisters still had to look at their husbands and mother-in-law's eyes when they were in their mother-in-law's house, especially in the countryside of the 1980s when idle uncles would come to visit and enjoy the autumn breeze. When would it be the end? Chi Changhai is not a lackluster person either. As the Chinese New Year approaches, he has been wandering around the homes of his four brother-in-law and cannot live such a life of dependence. Therefore, he packed up a roll of bedding, brought the money raised from his four sisters, and prepared to go out to find work. As soon as he left, the matter between Chi Dafu and Ding Kaifeng came to a complete end. Anzixi had 2 lives on her hands, but she had no psychological burden. Leaving aside her past life as a ghost king, she has long been accustomed to such things and has a strong psychological resilience. It's not an exaggeration to say that the original owner died in the hands of this couple, and to seek revenge for the original owner on your own. Moreover, these 2 people are not willing to die of thieves and still want to kill themselves. They will never suffer again. Should we kill them? They won't die, she will die next time. Rather than being killed by others, Anzixi prefers to send others to hell. Her technique is professional, her on-site handling ability is excellent, and her skills are excellent. Those investigators would be surprised if they could discover the tricks. After handling this matter well, Anzixi took up another task. Take the money and go to the market. And Mei Yun didn't leave her much money. Most of the money was scraped from the Qi family. She didn't take anything, only money. Anyway, a big fire explained everything. When I went to the market, I bought 2 jin of pork, 2 bags of dim sum and 2 bottles of wine. Returning to Shaoqian village, he didn't go home and went straight to the village chief's house with his belongings. Village chief Li Jiushan is an old man in his 50s and has a high reputation in Shaoqian village. His wife Ruan Hohat has a loud voice, although she has a bit of a temper, she is not a bad person. The 2 of them were both stunned when they saw Anzixi coming, and when they saw what she was holding in her hand, they couldn't even figure it out. Child, if you encounter anything, just speak up and don't need to take anything. Li Jiushan said from the bottom of his heart. This child has a difficult life and is willing to help. Ruan Hohat didn't speak, she just pretended to smile, her eyes fixed on those things without moving. Uncle, Auntie, I really have something to ask of you. Anzixi restrained his momentum, making himself look like an ordinary little cutie. My mother died, and my father has been away for more than 10 years, with no news at all, so I think. Before she could finish speaking, Ruan Hohat interjected, do you want to find your father? Child, it's not that the lady told you, where are you looking? It's been more than 10 years, and if you want to find someone, it's not like looking for a needle in a haystack. When your father left for just over half a year, your mother went out to find her, but she couldn't find her. Li Jiushan said unhappily, don't interrupt, listen to the child finish speaking. Ruan Hohat glared at him and closed her mouth. Auntie, I'm not looking anymore. Anzixi lowered his head as if mustering up courage. I just want to change my surname. Change my name. What, change your surname, change your name. Anzixi nodded and said, anyway, he doesn't want me anymore. Why am I still surnamed Zhao? I want to change my name to my mother's. Ruan Hohat blinked her horse's eyes and said, change it to An. That's in Sheila. My mom, rest in peace, this is too unlucky. Talents. Anzixi was overjoyed and worried that he couldn't find an excuse to change his name. Now, there's an excuse. Anyway, I don't follow his surname Zhao, so it doesn't matter what he calls. If Auntie thinks this name is unlucky, then I won't call it anymore and change it to a different name. She pushed things into the Kong and said, Uncle, I'm just a half-old child and don't understand anything. You still need to come forward and inquire with the county about this matter. They have to go to the county to get registered residence, but not the town. We need to say hello to the town first and provide a certificate. But don't worry, you are a child who has grown up under Uncle's supervision. Uncle will definitely help you with this matter, but we need to wait until the end of the Chinese New Year. We don't want the things, you can take them back. And Zixi didn't care about such a thing. She quickly stood up and bowed to Li Jiushan. Thank you, uncle. Since the thing was delivered, there's no reason to carry it back. I'm leaving. After speaking, she turned around and walked out of the Li family's door, running back home as if afraid of being chased by others. Wan Hohat happily put away the things sent by Anzixi and said, "This child is sensible and causes pain. He will be designated to have success in the future. Zhao has no conscience, and there will be one day he regrets it. It's a bit late today. Little cutie reading, raise your paw." End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Stealing Out Households. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Stealing out households. Even if the matter of registered residence is completed, Wan Hohat receives her own things, but Li Jiushan doesn't refuse it. I think we should be able to do it after the new year. Apart from this matter, there are two urgent matters to attend to. The first year is about making money. This era is too poor, especially in rural areas, where not many families eat 3 meals a day. When Meiyun passed away, she only left a small courtyard for the original owner, more than 3 acres of land that was contracted to households, and more than 80 yuan. You should know that this is a rural area in the past 8 to 5 years. It is not easy for Meiyun to save over 80 yuan, as she has to live and provide for her children's education. Many workers at this time are earning a salary of 30 to 40 yuan and cannot save much at the end of a month, let alone farmers who rely on the weather for a living. The original owner used over 80 yuan to prepare for her mother's future life, removing funeral supplies such as materials, clothing, and stone tablets, as well as the cost of hiring people for burial and the money for the drum and music troupe. In the end, she still had 3.52 yuan left in her hand. This is all the belongings of the female lead. If it weren't for taking Chi Dafu's money, Anzixi wouldn't even have the money to buy things and ask for help. It's not that the original owner was extravagant, but that their family situation is a bit special. And Meiyun has no son, which is easily looked down upon in the countryside. In addition, her man ran away again, and she left at the age of only 40. All of this is pinned on a woman. Even if the villagers sympathize with her, they still look down on her. Originally, the main idea was to do my best to let Meiyun be buried in glory, and to show those who mocked Meiyun for not having a queen. After all, the original owner was only a high school student, and it can be understood that he didn't consider the consequences when doing things, but now this pot has to be borne by Anzixi. The money brought from Chi's family is still over 300 yuan, which sounds like a lot, but it's not enough for her to spend. If Anzixi wants to avenge the original owner, she naturally needs to make a big move. Otherwise, what would she do with those letters and telegrams? Besides making money, school matters also need to be arranged. The original owner was a senior high school student. Despite not being talkative and having a dull personality, his academic performance was very good. She jumped from a young age and entered her senior year of high school at the age of only 16. In this era, people generally go to school relatively late, and many girls, despite doing well in their studies, drop out early and return home. They either go out to work for a living or get married and have children, which hinders their academic prospects. From this point of view, Meiyun is still very open-minded. No matter how hard she works, she never lets her daughter drop out of school. And Zixi is not worried about studying. She has memories of the original owner, and coupled with the fact that the Ghost King is also a genius in the double business school, dealing with the college entrance examination in this era is definitely like playing. Based on the original owner's grades, it is definitely not a problem to be admitted to the capital, but Anzixi feels that the normal college in Lingqing is more suitable for her. In this era, there is no such thing as 985-211. Being a teacher with a secure job is a job that many people envy. If I could become a university teacher, it would be like taking a step to the sky. Anzixi doesn't want to be a teacher, but she must go to Linqing. The best university in Linqing is the normal college, which is equivalent to the standard of double first class in later generations. Moreover, in this era, taking the teacher training college entrance exam has another advantage, which is that there are almost no tuition fees, cafeteria meals and subsidies, and some schools offer quite generous scholarships. And Zixi doesn't care about her education, she just wants to avenge the original owner and abuse the scumbag for An Meiyun. Moreover, among the college students of this era, those who hold great value and are able to get into university in this era are basically not doing poorly. After tidying up the scumbag, she can completely focus on studying, making money, and being a happy and carefree ordinary person, living a completely different life from the Ghost King. After thinking these things through, Anzixi went to sleep peacefully. There is a saying that says the plan doesn't change quickly. Anzixi Wurong, who had planned everything, never expected to wake up the next day and see such a strange scene. Many strangers broke into her house. Well, to be precise, the original owner knew these people, but was not familiar with them. These people from this village, those from other villages, those who have some connections with the An family, some acquaintances, and those who watch the excitement have all come to the An family. A few shameless thugs actually solemnly told Anzixi that they want to empty this house, occupy this place, and ask her to quickly take out the money and land in the house and share them. MMP, in the blue and white, it started talking nonsense. A kind-hearted neighbor couldn't bear to watch anymore and secretly told Anzixi that these people were here to rob a desperate household. What is robbing a desperate household? If there is no son in the family, once the male owner passes away, his brothers and nephews have the right to come to their house to inherit their property. That is to say, this man's wealth cannot be openly left to his wife and daughter, just because he has no son, he will be taken away by his brothers, nephews, and even his father. Anzixi has lived for 2 lifetimes, and even in his dreams, he never imagined that there is still the saying of robbing extinct households in this world. Poor and crazy. Looking at these restless and speechless people in front of him, Anzixi gave a cold smile and casually picked up the axe placed under the window, pointing it at the people across from him. I see who dares to move. I'll chop him with 1 axe. Everyone was startled when they saw her pick up the guy, and the troublemakers didn't expect that a 15 or 16-year-old girl would dare to copy the guy. What's going on? Do you still want to chop people? An old thug squeezed out from the crowd. This person was of medium build and looked like he was 40.7 or 8 years old, wearing a dirty and shiny cotton jacket and a woolen hat. He had a mischievous expression on his face and didn't seem to be a good person. He swaggered towards Anzixi and even lowered his head, pointing to his own head and saying, come on, come here. If you don't want to chop me today, I won't leave. Coincidentally, my wife died 2 years ago, and I'll just stay at your house. It's okay to be your doorstep son. Law. There were many people around who cheered and laughed as if they were about to explode. The people next to him only dared to watch him play pranks, but dared not step forward to dissuade him. This person's name is Wu Zhengguang, nicknamed Wu Popi. He is the most scoundrel and specializes in promiscuity, becoming a well-known troublemaker in several nearby villages. Good people who cling to his side, being remembered by him, they are all plagued by misfortune, not giving any blood, not being able to justify this guy. Anzixi was not angry either, but suddenly lifted his foot and kicked towards Wu Pupi's belly. Everyone exclaimed in surprise that the little girl was so angry that she dared to take action. Wu Pupi never expected such a situation, but he didn't have time to escape. He was kicked into his lower abdomen by Anzixi and flew out more than 2 meters away. Wu Pupi only felt the pain in his lower abdomen as if he had been pricked by countless needles. In the middle of winter, he was sweating profusely and struggled on the ground twice, but didn't get up for half a day. You shameless little lady, when I sleep with you. Before the words could be finished, Anzixi arrived with an axe and swung it towards Wu Pupi on the ground, feeling heartbroken by the child's anger, seeking tickets, seeking comfort / End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Poverty. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Poverty. Anzixi was wielding an axe to chop at people, frightening those around him who were watching the commotion. Seeing Wu Pupi about to turn into a corpse, many timid people covered their eyes and shouted, "My mother, there's been a loss of life." Wu Pupi was almost scared to death, and the axe was getting closer and closer to him, about to strike his head. He let out a scream of fear and quickly closed his eyes. The next moment, all I heard was a clang. Those around were brave enough not to close their eyes. They saw it really well. Anzixi cut the axe between Wu Pupi's legs, and the axe hit the paving stones, splashing a few sparks. People took a cold breath and thought to themselves, this girl really dares to take action. If she chops a bit off, Wu Pupi will have to break one leg at least. Wu Jingguang trembled as he opened his eyes, only to find the axe standing between his legs. He felt a chill and was scared to pee. Anzixi looked down at him from a height and said, "Do you want to be my son? Lol." Wu Pupi kept shaking his head, unable to say a word. His heart was beating rapidly, as if he was about to jump out of his cavity. "Do anyone else want to be your doorstep son? Lol." The scene was completely silent. We're not here to be the doorstep son. Lol. "I don't know who it is," but the weak one said. Anzixi smiled and said, "I know, are you here to rob the extinct family? My grandfather died early, and my mother was only a brother who hasn't been in contact for many years. My heartless father has been away for so many years, and his whereabouts are still unknown. I don't know where to hide and pretend to be a grandson. When my mother dies, whether it's the An family or the Zhao family, I'll be the only orphan left, so you can't wait to come and rob the extinct family." No one dares to pick up the conversation. The one who hid in the crowd before has also closed his mouth this time. This is indeed the case, and many ignorant rural areas also have this custom. The level of legal education is not enough, and many people even take it for granted. I'll leave my words here today, you can come over. If you dare to come to my house to rob me of a household, you must be prepared to be scared and wet your pants. Anzixi pointed to Wu Pupi with his finger. My kick today, this axe, can be considered a warning to you. As the saying goes, those who are afraid of being horizontal are afraid of being foolish, and those who are afraid of being reckless are afraid of not dying. If anyone comes to rob me of a household or bully me, I will fight with him. Those who are not afraid of death can give it a try. Everyone looked at Anzixi in a daze, not understanding how a young girl, who was just over 10 years old, suddenly had such a powerful aura and scared everyone. They don't know what psychology they are based on, but they dare not look at her, as if they will be killed by her gaze at any time. The few people who came to rob the orphanage didn't dare to fart a single word and left the courtyard in a disheveled manner. Those who were watching the excitement around didn't dare to stay for long, but they all looked at Anzixi with very complicated eyes as they walked. Wu Pupi was wearing a pair of wet cotton pants and ran out in a rolling motion. Anzixi's move did indeed suppress them all. When Li Jiushan received the news, the troublemakers had already been scared away. At the dinner table, Li Jiushan's youngest son, Li Duoyang, was very excited as he recounted what had happened during the day, feeling like he had watched a big show. Wan Hohat was very surprised and couldn't help but speak up and ask, his father, "You said this child used to be so twisted. He wouldn't even say anything to anyone, how did he become like this now?" The words he said when he came to give a gift that day were so beautiful. Today, something like this happened again, and I saw that he had changed his temper. Mom, what's so unusual about this? If I had to tell you, she was late to have an enlightenment, so she must have one now. Bai Jingjing is Li Duoyang's wife, who is only 18 this year. She and the original owner are classmates in elementary school, and because they are not old enough, they have not obtained a certificate. Holding a banquet is considered marriage. Enlightenment. Ah. Bai Jingjing took a sip of soup before saying, we were in the same class when we were young. She was so smart, she learned everything quickly. She read a lot of books and jumped several times. Such a smart person, unless she didn't have an enlightenment, that enlightenment would definitely be amazing. Is that right? Wan Hohat was very puzzled, but when she looked at Li Jiushan again, she seemed as if nothing had happened. His father, I've been asking you for a while now. What do you think? Li Jiushan cleared the rice from his bowl and put down his chopsticks before saying, that child is probably stimulated. When her mother died, she stood up. Don't you think about it, an orphan without a father or mother, how difficult it is to live well. If she were like before, who would protect her? Yeah, who's protecting her? If Anzixi hears this, she might be overjoyed. I am the best in the world, and I still use someone else to protect me. Don't tease me. However, she is not in the mood to be funny now because 3 more big mice have arrived at home. Anzixi propped up his ears to listen to the commotion outside, with a somewhat playful expression on his face. It seems that she didn't succeed during the day. If she didn't give up, she came at night to scare her and then drive her out. TSK, what deep hatred is there? To treat a little girl like this. Is it her fault to have no father or mother? Losing one's family is already pitiful enough, and having to be forced to a desperate situation by these people using the method of robbing households. Isn't this a crime? Anzixi waited inside the house, waiting for these few big rats to carry their heads and flee. During the conversation, the 3 of them had already arrived at the entrance of the main room. Anzixi extended his fingers and silently gestured, 1, 2, 3, ah. A scream shattered the tranquility of the night, followed by another scream, like a wolf's howl, spreading far and wide, making it sound terrifying. It hurts, it hurts. A dark figure pointed to the mouse clip on the ground and cursed, he's this little girl has put the mouse clip on. Please help me open it quickly. The other person put in a lot of effort to help him break open the mouse trap. My feet. The man hugged his feet and panted, sweating in pain. At this moment, several households next to them lit up their lights, as if hearing screams. They got up to check the situation and listened. The 3 rascals, seeing that the situation was not good, didn't care anymore and gave a grudge towards the direction of the main house before limping away. Anzixi lay on the windowsill, watching the 3 figures fleeing in panic, and couldn't help but smile with pursed lips. Now she can be quiet for a few days. At 7 o'clock in the morning, Anzixi got up and did a set of military martial arts in the room. She was so skilled that she felt a little warm and much more comfortable. Wash your face and cook. In the rice jar at home, there are only some sweet potatoes, a handful of millet, and a small bag of soybeans left. There are several Chinese cabbage, a sack of potatoes, and a pickled vegetable jar piled up by the wall. In addition, there is only a little soy sauce, salt, a string of dried red chili peppers, and a few heads of garlic left at home. Anzixi stood in front of the rice vat with a cross-legged sigh, poor, really poor. Passing by friends, look here, leave a message, ticket, stand up. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Meddling in Personal Matters. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Meddling in Personal Matters. Every household in the local area has this kind of food, and they can taste some meat and fish during the Chinese New Year throughout the year. They usually tighten their belts to live a frugal life. In this era, farmers relied on farming to make a living. They raised some chickens and pigs at home, and were able to pick some mountain goods from the mountains and sell them at the market, which was considered as additional income. Farming can only barely provide food and clothing, and a large family relies on God's reward for food. In good weather years, the family can have some surplus. If there is a disaster year, drought, flood, or insect infestation, it is really a waste of time and the land is not functioning properly. This is also why rural people envy urban people very much, because urban people have jobs, hold iron rice bowls for wages, and can never starve to death no matter what the year. Forget it, do as the Romans do when in Rome. Eat whatever you have. She hasn't never suffered before. Anzixi dug out a stove pit, sprinkled grass and forest ash outside the wall, and casually brought some firewood from the yard into the house. Burn the stove, throw the sweet potatoes into the stove, wash some millet, and cook some thin millet porridge in an aluminum pan. When the congee is ready, the sweet potatoes are also ripe. Anzixi takes out another piece of pickled vegetable lump from the pickled vegetable tank, cuts it a few times, and you can eat. The food is a bit shabby, but it's not that I can't eat it, at least it fills my stomach. After finishing his meal, Anzixi changed into a relatively clean smock, tied his hair back up, searched for an old headscarf from a meiyun, covered his head and face tightly, and then walked out with a bamboo basket on his shoulder. Locked the door and Anzixi walked out of the village with small steps. Today is not the day for the market, but she wants to go to the town and see if she can find any way to make money. To be ashamed, she doesn't know how to do farm work and doesn't want to live a life of digging and eating in the soil. The most important thing is that in order to seek revenge, one must have a certain level of financial ability. Only in this way can one infinitely expand their achievements, trample on scumbags, and rub them hard. Shaoqian village is about 20 miles away from Mago town. Anzixi rushed slowly and finally arrived at Mago town at noon. The mountain road is not easy to walk, and her physical fitness is far inferior to her previous life, so she walked for several hours before reaching the town. The little thing I had eaten in the morning has already been digested. Anzixi is so hungry that the xiong from the previous month pressed against his back, and he has no strength left. Man is iron, rice is steel. Her small figure is at the stage of development, and her nutrition cannot keep up. In order to save food, she can only eat 2 meals a day. Who can bear it? No, she needs to find a place to eat something. At this time, most department stores and restaurants were state-owned and required food vouchers for meals. However, cloth vouchers and side food vouchers had gradually faded from the stage of history. A few individual restaurants do not require food vouchers, but they can only be seen in big cities. The weather is very cold, and the mountain wind blows on my face like a knife. Anzixi originally wanted to eat something hot, but when he arrived at the state-owned restaurant, he realized that the room was overcrowded and there were no seats available. Upon inquiry, it was discovered that the town had been without electricity for the whole morning, and there was no food in the hatchery and township unit canteens. Moreover, the electricity was temporarily shut down without notifying everyone, resulting in these companies having no preparation at all. Workers and officials could only go out for meals. Those who are close to home will go home and have a bite, while those who are unwilling to go back will all come to state-owned restaurants. Isn't that a coincidence? Anzixi didn't want to wait, so he ran to the neighboring supply and marketing cooperative and bought a bottle of soda and a big bread. He squatted under the wall of the cooperative and started gnawing on them. There's the sun above my head, and it's still windy here, it's nice. She is really too hungry. Although bread is not meat, at least it is white noodles. A serious fine grain. Soda can also provide her with sugar, and after eating these two things, Anzixi felt that she had come back to life. Just as I remembered going to the supply and marketing cooperative to return the bottle, I suddenly heard a furious noise nearby. I don't believe it anymore, I can't catch that little hoof. Oh, what a loud voice. Is this a gossip incident? Anzixi remained motionless, listening quietly with her ears propped up. Another relatively gentle voice rang out, "Oh, you keep your voice down. What's wrong with you being afraid that people won't hear you? This is not a glorious thing. Sister, I'm so upset. Wei Min said I'm suffering from mental illness, and their whole family scolded me for having a problem with my brain. But I'm a woman, and I know for sure if my man has me in his heart. He specified that someone else is outside, otherwise he wouldn't treat me like this. So what? You don't have any evidence. As the saying goes, take the thief and get the stolen, catch the woman and catch the couple. Are you blocking them or have you found some evidence? The loud mention of this made me even more angry. If I had evidence, I would have caused trouble in their factory a long time ago. Can I still hold back here? You're my sister. If you don't help me, you're still talking to that little slut. Wu Qiuhong was so angry that her head ached. You said you were my own sisters, and I could talk to her. Don't you pay attention to the evidence? Even if Wayman really has something to do with others, if you don't show the evidence, he can admit it. Even a fool can't admit it. Wu Minhong said helplessly, my sisters also helped me watch, but I just couldn't touch the details of that woman. I've figured out what's going on. Are you divorced from Wayman and your days are numbered? Loud for a long time without speaking, obviously in a dilemma. Let's continue living, feeling frustrated. But then the family came apart, and the child lost his father. Anzixi thinks it's time for him to appear. In this world, there is no case that can easily defeat her. It's just about catching a female worker. What's the difficulty? She walked out of the corner and startled Wu Minhong and her sister. They deliberately found a quiet place to talk, but no one saw a child here. Auntie, I'm sorry, I was eating here just now and accidentally overheard your conversation. Wu Minhong's face was not very good. It was very embarrassing to be bumped into by someone, so she naturally wouldn't give Anzixi any good face and turned around to ignore her. If you're clever, you should be leaving now. But Anzixi didn't leave and didn't pay much attention to Wu Minhong's attitude. Instead, he said to Wu Qiuhong, Auntie, I can actually help with your affairs. You. Wu Qiuhong hesitated for a moment, then smiled. Child, thank you. It's all adults' business. Besides, we don't know each other, right? You better leave quickly. Wu Qiuhong is a doctor from the town hospital with good quality. If it were someone else, I'm afraid she would have to curse out loud. To be honest with you, my dad used to be very uneasy. I followed my mom to investigate his situation, and found out everything very clearly. Every time I caught him, I found out. I think you guys are also feeling a headache. How about I help you investigate? Hurry up coding while your child is in school. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Analysis. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Analysis. Wu Qiuhong couldn't believe her ears. She didn't hear it wrong, did she? Is this child trying to help them catch girls? This. Wu Qiuhong didn't even know how to go back. She felt like letting a child go and catch a girl was completely insane. What surprised her even more was that Wu Minhong, who had been silent all along, suddenly turned around and asked the child, can you really help me catch someone? Anzixi said, how do you know if you don't give it a try? I'm from out of town and a half-year-old child, so my advantage is very obvious. Wu Qiuhong frowned, clearly disapproving. She reached out and poked Wu Minhong, indicating that she didn't take a child too seriously. But Wu Minhong looked very moved and ignored Wu Qiuhong's reminder. Do you know why your friends can't help you? Why? This is also something that Wu Minhong can't figure out. She has a few close friends who talk about everything. She is not afraid of her family's reputation being exposed, and has told a few friends about this matter at home, hoping that they can help her look at her husband and see which women he usually gets close to. However, after half a year of investigation, she found nothing. Anzixi confidently said, your friend knows your husband, and your husband also knows your friend. Wake up the dreamer with just one sentence. Wu Qiuhong looked up and down at Anzixi twice, and the more she looked, the more surprised she became. The little girl in front of me is only about 1.65 meters tall, thin, but her eyes are exceptionally bright. More importantly, she didn't see any hint of timidity in this little girl. She stood there, her body erect like a pine tree. Although she was wearing ordinary clothes and shoes, they didn't diminish her temperament at all. What kind of family can raise such a child? Can you say that our family is in trouble? If you were to go catch it. Wu Minhong swallowed the word female worker as she remembered that the other party was only a half-year-old child. What do you plan to do? First of all, I need you to provide a piece of information about your partner. For example, their work hours, work routes, hobbies, friends, colleagues who are close to them, and so on. Based on the information you provide, I will identify patterns and make a plan. Once I have concrete evidence, I will tell you everything you want to know. Unless they are really okay, I can dig them out no matter who they are. Wu Qiuhong looked a bit whimsical, but Wu Minhong wanted to give it a try. You won't help me for no reason, will you? What do you want? Anzixi breathed a sigh of relief. Just be willing to ask the price. Wu Qiuhong also breathed a sigh of relief, and her younger sister finally did not lose her sanity. I am currently specialized in taking on tasks like finding people and things for you. In foreign countries, this profession is called private detective and has a professional fee system. We don't have many standards in China either, so you can watch and give it to me. Before Wu Qiuhong could speak, Wu Minhong said first, I'll give you 30 yuan. But you have to find the person for me. 30 yuan. Wu Qiuhong was so angry that her hair was about to stand up, but that was half of her monthly salary. Okay. If I don't find anyone, I won't take a penny. Agreed. It's settled. Wu Minhong finally couldn't help but ask, you little girl, you have a lot of courage. You're not afraid of working for free. What if you finish your work and we don't pay? That's a good question. Hee hee. Anzixi said, if you default on your debts, within 3 days, I can make it impossible for you to stay in this town. The sisters were shocked by the wolf in her eyes. They looked at each other and regretted it. I always feel like I've provoked people who shouldn't have been provoked. Alright, now tell me, what's your husband's name, Weimin? Wu Minhong no longer dared to underestimate Anzixi and hurriedly said, oh, his name is Deng Weimin, and he is an electrician at our town's electricity management station. He doesn't have any special hobbies in his daily life, just likes to drink alcohol. His job is not light, and he often goes out to climb poles and install lines, do line repairs. Sometimes he comes home late, and sometimes he can't come back. Wu Minhong rambled on a lot. He has 2 good friends, the best kind of relationship, who entered the power management station in the same year. One is named Lu Guofu, and the other is named Bai Liang. The 3 of them occasionally gather to eat together, and their relationship is so good. I once begged these 2 people to confide in me and tell me the identity of that woman, but they didn't say anything and just said I thought too much. Why are you so sure that your lover is outside? Could it be a mistake? Wu Qiuhong felt a bit embarrassed, thinking that this should not be said to a child. She gave her younger sister a wink and asked her not to say anything. It doesn't matter if you say it directly. I'm getting old and have seen everything before. Well, we haven't slept in the same room for almost a year. Wu Minhong's ears turned red. She's not yet 40 years old, and Deng Weimin is also at the best age for a man. He hasn't touched her for a year, isn't there a problem? And Zixi nodded. The woman's intuition and sixth sense can be terrifying at times, and the couple hasn't been together for a year. It's really abnormal. She asked several questions about Deng Weimin's work, such as working hours, maintenance routes, etc., and had a rough idea of the direction to explore. Do you have any photos? Wu Minhong didn't react and said, what? A photo? I don't know Deng Weimin, could you please give me a photo of him? I'll look for someone based on the photo. Oh. Wu Minhong finally realized and awkwardly said, that one, it's all at home. Who would carry photos with them when they're free? I'll wait for you, you go get it. If you have a group photo of him with colleagues or classmates, it's best to also bring it over for easy identification. Okay. Wu Minhong was afraid that she might run away, so she instructed Wu Qiuhong to accompany Anzixi here and go home to take photos on her own. As soon as Wu Minhong left, Wu Qiuhong awkwardly glared at Anzixi. Anzixi is not awkward, but the look in Wu Qiuhong's eyes made her feel very uncomfortable. Why, Dr. Wu can't trust me. Wu Qiuhong's pupils suddenly shrank and she said, how do you know I'm a doctor? Have you investigated me? Ho ho, don't be so nervous. Anzixi said, it's a coincidence that we met today. I know you are a doctor because you have the smell of disinfectant on your body and the color of iodophore left on your hands. Dr. Wu's nails are very short, which should be a professional habit. The shoes you wear on your feet should also be special. I remember that last year there was a commendation meeting. Some exemplary individual awarded you the shoes made in Shanghai. There is a sign of the Red Cross next to the shoes, which should be sent to medical workers. End of this chapter.